I was in a service preaching on not letting your past dictate your life. That no matter what you've been through, I got so vehement sharing in it, I was nervous. My mind was skipping on me. I was going, Lord, this is too intense. It feels too harsh. God, please. And it just kept coming like fire. And I couldn't stop. It was there, and I kept bringing it. You say, oh, you could stop. No, no, no. I have this thing with the Lord. You don't understand. Please don't judge the shoes I'm in. When He brings it, it's coming. My mind sometimes goes, no. And my mouth keeps speaking, and I'm going, no. You have no idea. Sometimes that's very, very relevant. And in this case, I was doing it. I was preaching. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter who did what to you now that He's come. You have to find your identity through Him. You can't live in that place when you're called to this place. And I'm preaching it, and I'm like, if I knew this girl's story, I would have never said a word. I'd have stayed off the subject the whole night. I would have never touched it. There's a girl sitting right where you are, in the setup just like this. She was sitting right where you are. She's a little girl from Guatemala. Guess what her story was? She's out in the jungle playing with her little puppy. She's 6 years old. He ran off. She's taking him for a walk. She gets playing with him, and all of a sudden she hears all these screams. She hears all this trauma. She sneaks back through the bushes, and she peeks into her village. She crawls under a bush and holds the mouth of her puppy so he doesn't make a noise. And she's telling him to shh. She watches these men execute her dad, her mom, and her 11 siblings for being Christians. And then she watched them string them up on cables in front of the gate of this little village in order to age. And said, this is what will happen to any of you that decide to follow this Jesus. Let it be a sign to this village. And I'm preaching, don't let your past dictate you. And she goes into convulsions sitting there. I'm talking deliverance convulsions. While I'm preaching, well, I'll just be honest. I don't like this. I hope it never happens. It doesn't. I don't know what goes on with all this. But she threw up horrendously in the aisle and was seizing. She looked like she needed medical attention. And I just knew it was God and said, she's fine. Let her go. Holy Spirit's working. And one lady held her while she's seizing. And when that all ended, she was just sobbing and crying. And she had peace all over her. And people were cleaning up, and I just kept preaching. We didn't focus on her. We let Holy Spirit do what He does. When it was all over, I got to really sit and talk with her personally. She told me the story. I had fear and trembling come all over me. Because I was like, are you kidding me, God? You are so confident. You are so bold. You so know who you are. And you so know your love for people that you would speak like that to her to reach her. If I knew her situation, I wouldn't have said a word. I'd have been scared to speak. And God went, more than ever. I addressed the topic more intense than ever. And she was the most extreme case that I had ever heard. But if I had that natural knowledge, I wouldn't have addressed it like that. But God knew, and He had me address it. And I said, what were you hearing when I was preaching? Because I was uncomfortable, honey. I was actually feeling like it was borderline insensitive, and that I was like, no, but it kept coming. She said, oh, it was the deliverance of my life. It was the best thing ever. She said, I was sitting there listening going, because she was in her 20s, and she would have told you she hated God because of what He let happen to her family. That was her. And this group was working with her. This family took her under their wing, was trying to help her, and they brought her to church. She didn't want to come. She came because they're so nice to her. They're helping her. So she came out of courtesy. She's just sitting there. She didn't know what she was getting that day. Here's what she said to me. She said, I was sitting there, you were preaching, God was ripping my heart. She said, and all of a sudden it dawned on me. Because my whole life, she said, I was bitter at God because my parents got killed and my 11 siblings. And she said, I was sitting there, and when I cried so hard right before I went into convulsions, and I don't even know what happened, she said the rest was a blur to me. I said, well, yeah, I saw what happened. It was serious. She said, I was sitting there, and I said, oh no, I've been deceived. I've been mad at God. She said 11 siblings didn't die that day. 12 did. I've been dead ever since. God, forgive me. And when she said, God, forgive me, deliverance came. And every demonic thing and all the symptoms in her body, she had a terrible disease eating at her flesh, it all left her in a moment. And no one prayed for her. It was just truth making free. She said, God, forgive me. Bam! Forgiven. Ah! You do not want to be a devil living there when God says, forgiven. Uh-oh! You're in trouble. Wrong side of the field, buddy. That's an intense story. Some of us think we've had trouble till you talk to somebody else that's had trouble. So talking about your trouble is never the answer to getting where he paid for. Talking about what he paid for is the answer. Who are you now that he came? And why did he come for you? To put his life inside of you, to get the lie off of you, and to get you back in purpose and